Hello guys, and I've got a second video out today, and as I mentioned earlier, if you saw the earlier video, it's more information on the combat rework. So as you know, if you know, a couple of weeks ago, or possibly, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video on the Mod Rathe posts. Now, as you can see, there's a few of them remaining from the 1st of June. That's pretty much the post I went over. And he's been posting quite a lot on the combat discussion forum, and I'm basically going to be going over his posts to see what he's been saying about the combat rework. And he's answered quite a few questions here on questions for pondering. And the first question: what are the odds of being in 1 in 50,000 players chosen? And he says about 5% if you're pessimistic and 10% if you're optimistic. So you haven't really got a good chance of being in that 50,000. However, you will have access at weekends anyway. Somebody asked, will it be Portal, different world, or even a different website to access the beta? And he says the beta will take place on beta worlds only. Basically what you do, you just load up the game and you'll see the worlds. You'll have like, there's a different button to start up a beta game client and as opposed to the normal game client. So whether you're going to be able to use the RuneScape client to do this, I use, yeah, you know, when you download it from the website and use that client, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to use that, but I imagine they will add a way to use it like that. But it says at the minute, what he said on the RuneScape website, there'll be 2 buttons, one to start beta and one to start normal. Will mods give beta testers hints on how to best use the new setups to get the more advanced strategies and possible bug fixed soon? And he says that they intend to be very active on the forums, so feel free to ask tips once the beta starts, and I'm sure they will be helping. I'm sure most of the mods that are working on this will obviously be watching feedback very closely, as that's the whole point in doing this in the first place. He says the PvP will apply exactly how it is now, so basically as it is in the actual game. We'll be able to string specials such as sprint, stun, defense lower than powerful smash attack, or will we have to execute all of this ourselves? There is no support for macros, you will need to use each ability yourself, is what he said. I think he kind of got the idea of the question there. We'll be able to use fuse specials such as, with level 90 attack, you have learned how to combine the smash and defense lower special for weapons. And basically he says, no, but as you level up, more interesting abilities will be unlocked for use. So there's no way you'll be able to combine attacks. It's all separated, but the higher level, the better the ability you'll unlock. And obviously if you're already max combat, you're set, aren't you? You can use all the abilities straight away. And that's going to be pretty interesting, because I know I'm definitely looking forward. I'm max combat, I'll be able to test everything. And I'm not sure if I'll be doing live streams, possibly do a live stream or something. Possibly a couple of live streams just testing things, going to necks and going to random bosses with it. And I swear I'll go to necks, right, first kill I'll get a Perdix body, and it won't be an actual Perdix body, since anything you get on the beta doesn't count. But also, actually I mentioned that later, it doesn't matter, don't want to mention that now. Will be able to readjust the stances seen in the video. From what I saw, they were all more aggressive stances, will be the more defensive ones. And basically it's just that there's 2 cosmetic stances in the new system. There's relaxed and in combat, and basically these are automatic. You don't get to choose when you're using each one. When you're in combat you'll have one stance, and when you're out of combat you'll have another stance. So you've probably seen it in the images where you have like the 2H sword over your shoulder, or you can have it like drawn, like ready to attack. Obviously I think that means like relax and in combat. He says, are there some cosmetic attacks that just mix up the old standard attack? And basically he says all the animations have been replaced with new ones, so it's all going to look a lot more interesting. And something that I'm hoping is definitely better is actually hitting your opponent, because at the minute obviously you just swing your whip exactly the same way. I'm kind of hoping you'd be able to actually like hit the monster. I imagine that's a very tough thing to do, but we'll see what it's actually like. But I assume the animations will obviously be better, rather than like swinging your sword wildly in the air. I think it's quite weird that when you use a chaotic maul you hit the floor and you're nowhere near hitting the monster. Hopefully some things like that are improved. Next question is, will there be spells similar to the one in the video, fire covered body, for the ancient spellbooks? From what I understand they mean to make more spells available to more players to no DT for ancients maybe. And he doesn't actually answer that question about no desert treasure for ancients. I assume desert treasure will still be a requirement for ancients, because that's basically a quest that everyone does for ancients. It's the whole point in the quest, so I think it'd be quite stupid to remove the requirement. And he says the new abilities such as Metamorphosis, the flame body one, which is the one that we've seen in a video when the guy turns to a fire body, are available in all the spellbooks. Now, this is something that's a big factor, because I mean, pretty much now, the majority of DPS is done with abilities rather than standard attack. And that means no matter which spellbook you're on, you're still going to have access to abilities, which, does that kind of mean certain spellbooks don't really matter anymore so much? Anyway, next he says, will there be more armor for the combat beta that won't be seen until the combat update? And he says, not quite sure what you mean. Well, I think basically he means, are they going to add the new armors into the combat beta? That won't be seen until the combat update. So basically, the armors that are getting released with the combat update are in the beta but not in the real game, kind of thing. And he's replied saying that there's a new mage and ranger set of armor being introduced. I wonder what that'll be, because they've actually just released that D-hide for range, haven't they? But it'll be interesting to see what they are. Obviously, one thing that's definitely going to be interesting on the beta is the fact that all the gears are going to change stats. And it'll be interesting to look at them stats and compare gears then and see how, like, Torva compares to Ganodermic and etc, etc. Will there be events such as God War's Dungeon to test how attacks from many people affect the current bosses? He says yes. So basically Jagex are planning on doing events to certain bosses to, for people to go and test. And just randomly...
Whoa! Virus database has been updated.
Hope that's not too loud. Vast up now, everyone knows what antivirus I've got. Holy shit! Anyway, yeah, I've got a vast antivirus. Anyway, will the bosses be updated to cope with this massive update? Yes. So basically every boss in RuneScape will be updated, and what that'll mean is like all the bosses will effectively be like new bosses. Hopefully not too different. I assume they're going to be relatively similar, but they are going to be improved in stats and power to match your new powers, etc. I assume, just to make them as efficient as they were before. Anyway, he says, will the beta feature new bosses monsters for these hard fights? And he says no. So there's no new monsters at the minute. And how will the combat level system be reworked? Will it be similar to Halo, where you must be good to have a good combat level? And he says, combat level is still based on your stat levels, but the calculation itself has been changed. We have not announced the new formula for combat levels yet. So basically, he hasn't mentioned the new combat level formula yet, because I don't want to announce it. What it'll actually be is quite interesting. Because obviously in the video we've seen a 139 combat, but whether that was just because it is a JMod account or because it's actually going to go to 139, who knows, but we'll see in the future. What do you mean by buying add-ons? If you mean with abilities available to buy from the Squeal, then no, they won't. The combat team, myself, Mod Rathe, Mod Pie, and Mod, I can't remember his name, but he's a very valued member of the team, which I assume he actually means Mod Hunter, which is quite funny that he doesn't actually remember his name, but I do, and are very much anti-microtransaction, and have shot down a number of proposals to add combat-related things to the wheel. So I think that's actually quite shocking that JMod has come out and announced that these are all against the Squeal of Fortune. And this is something that JMods have never really actually done, with the Squeal of all not being able to say their opinion. And it seems Mod Rathe is just like, fuck them, I'm saying it. So he's pretty much announced that the whole combat team, basically, these are all the best JMods if you realise. Mod Rathe, Mod Rathe, Mod Pie, and Mod Hunter are all some of the top JMods. And they are all anti-microtransaction, and that proves the fact that none of the JMods support it, but that's not for this discussion. But anyway, so if something is added to the wheel that's to do with the combat update, these are strong against it, and this is not their fault, and it is all the investors' fault if it does happen. But they are against it, so we shouldn't expect any abilities to be on the combat wheel or anything like that. And he says, as long as he's still working at Jagex, he will veto any attempts to try and sell abilities for real world money, and he doesn't plan on quitting Jagex anytime soon, so don't expect anything really game changing to be added to the Squeal of Fortune. Next thread's about the cost of ammunition. Basically, if you think about the problems, range and mage cost a lot because you got to use arrows, you got to use runes, and then melee, it doesn't cost anything apart from weapon repairs, which means it's a lot cheaper to use. And basically saying we've greatly reduced the rune cost of offensive spells in the Evolution of Combat. And he says all the air spells just need air runes. So from Wind Surge all the way to just Wind Blast or Wind Strike, they only use air runes. So if you use an air staff, they are free. And air runes are relatively cheap anyway. And he says for the most part though, in both range and mage, you'll be using your new abilities to deal damage, and abilities don't consume ammo. So as I mentioned earlier, the abilities will do the majority of your DPS, meaning that spells themselves aren't too important. and the abilities don't use consume ammo, so you'll be doing a lot more damage without using as many runes. And possibly, is this going to dramatically affect the rune prices and arrow prices? Who knows, but I can't imagine they'd want to affect rune prices too much, because they've been a staple of the rune. It is RuneScape, and they're a big thing in RuneScape, and I imagine they don't want to nerf them too much. And basically says the runes and the ammo are only used for your auto attacks, basically like the ones you'll do if you're just AFK, and not your abilities, so you should see a reduction in your consumable costs. He next says that blood and death runes are still used for some offensive spells, just not the basic wind spells. Wind strike, wind bolt, wind blast, wind wave, and wind surge now only cost air runes, as I mentioned. But I'm not sure about the fire, water, and earth. Obviously, he hasn't really mentioned them, but we'll have to see in beta what actually happens with them. Beta item generator is the next thread. So, did I mention it before? I'm not sure, but he says the plan to include a beta shop, which will sell combat gear of all levels for free to enable players to go out and test things without fear of dying and losing their stuff. Bear in mind that beta testers will be playing on cloned versions of their characters, which can only access the beta servers. You can still play the normal game on your normal characters, but items from the beta character won't be able to transfer across to your normal character. So if you die in the beta, you do not lose your items on your normal account, only on your beta account. But there is a shop to get your items back for free. So basically, you've got no risk of losing stuff in the beta. You can get any item you want. If you've never used Pernex before, you can go out and buy that, whatever you like. So you can just go and test that good gear. There's another thread called botting using the action bar, and he says it's no more difficult to simulate a keyboard key than a mouse click, so I don't really see this being a problem. Not really sure what that thread's about, but it's all about botting, which should be removed like about the end of this month anyway. He's on about the question about the beta servers access question. So if you're wondering about this, basically once the beta sign-ups finish in about a week's time, I believe the 50,000 people will be chosen, and the 1 year membership people will have their accounts flagged. So if you have signed up to the beta and you're going to be one of the 50,000, you will be emailed, as he mentions here. So if you're wondering how you'll be selected, you will be emailed. If you're not emailed, I assume you haven't been selected, or you might get emailed saying you haven't been selected. But we'll see in due course. If abilities go on the spellbook. So if you didn't see the latest behind the scenes video, you've seen all the abilities in your new spellbook tab. So where your spells are now is where the abilities are going to go. And it says the magic spells go in the magic tab of the new ability book. So you have the ability book with all those different sections. If you've seen a teaser image of some of the leaked images from the combat rework on my channel, possibly quite a few weeks ago now, you saw like a list of all the abilities. Well, I've seen them little images with all the abilities, and you had like one for attack, defense, strength, mage, and range. So I assume the magic ones are obviously going to be in the ability book, so they'll all still be there. And you can also still rearrange your spells so that you can only see offensive spells that only teleport spells. Which it might be a bit more tedious to get to your spells with this, but who knows. Where was I? The chat box and keybinds. So because obviously the action bar goes above the chat box, and when you can assign your keyboard to do this action bar, people are wondering about typing. So basically he's mentioned when you have the action bar on the screen, if you press enter first, you enter the chat box. So basically you can't assign enter to your action bar keys, and then if you hide the action bar you can just type normally. So if you're not really going to be doing combat or using your action bar, then you can just remove it and type like normal, but if you are, then you have to press enter first, which shouldn't be too annoying. The combat beta. I think some of these are probably repeats and questions. And he's just mentioned in there that you will get emailed again if you get in the 50k. The beta. What is the risk? Is this thread is called. Again, it's just something that's already been mentioned. There's quite a lot of repeat questions. I don't see why I go through and answer them all over again. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, another question is just saying that the beta accounts are separate to the regular accounts. That any XP you get on your beta account will not transfer back. This is something that could be a bit more interesting. Somebody asked about quests in the beta, and he says that we don't have any plans currently to allow people to replay quests in the beta, so it's not impossible that we may let you do later on in the beta. So basically he's saying it's quite possible that after the beta release, like a few weeks into it, they might open up all quests. Basically what they're saying they'll do is a blanket reset of all quests. Basically everyone will have completed no quests, and you could go through doing all the random quests again, fighting all the quest bosses. Like, you mentioned though that because you are resetting all quests there, if you wanted to do Vrandstrom from the Branches of Darkmere, you'd have to already do the preceding quests as well. So you have to work up all the requirement quests to do higher quests that you wanted to do, which would be quite tedious, but I'd prefer if you could just obviously choose any quest you want to repeat, but I don't think you can do. Somebody asked about surge boxes, and he's answered quite a few posts on this, and basically saying surge and blast boxes have been removed, which are a dungeoneering reward, as they weren't really any use once the new lower rune costs were implemented. Anyone who purchased the boxes will be given a refund when they log in after the update and makes it to the live servers. So basically if you've purchased a surge box, you will get all the tokens back. Now, this is something that I really make sure that all of you pay attention to. The boxes that you can buy from the reward shop have been removed and their token cost will be refunded. But, no, not this section. Right here. When the boxes are deleted and the refunds given, the runes will not be refunded. So if you have any runes inside your surge box, make sure you remove them. Just to make sure. He says that this may change if he gets the time to do it, so that you do get your runes back. But it's low on his list of tasks, because as you can imagine, he's very busy. I think this is something quite important that I wish Jagex... This is the sort of thing I wish Jagex would just do. He knows it's a problem, but he's not really thinking about fixing it, because he just hasn't got time, and no other Gmod can surely just fix that. Surely they can just do it. I mean, it's just a one little fix. I imagine lots of people will lose runes from this, but make sure if you've got a surge box, remove your runes from it. You don't want to lose your runes, because they're probably worth quite a lot if you've got a lot in them. He says the update that deletes the boxes won't be in the combat rework and won't be until the combat rework goes to the live servers in several months' time though, so you've got plenty of time to do that. He mentions about inside dungeoneering that the boxes will still exist, but you don't charge them up anymore. It's not the minute you obviously charge them up with so many casts. But basically what they do now is they provide unlimited air runes when equipped in your offhand slot. So you can cast the air spells for free without having to lose time crafting air runes at the start of a dungeoneering. So at the minute, obviously most people just use air surge from the surge box because you don't have any fire runes. Every so often someone will craft a fire stuff, but it's not really worth it. So you can still use your air surge from your surge box, and it goes in your offhand slot as usual. He mentions that again that the regular spells don't make up a significant portion of your damage output because most of it comes from the new abilities and the adrenaline bar. Where was we? Meteor Strike at PVM. I remember this thread. And he mentions that certain bosses still have the max hit caps and the new abilities will still obey these damage caps. So obviously Nex has got a 500 max hit on Nex. You can't hit higher even if you would have hit higher. And the abilities will still obey this. Obviously it might not be 500 anymore. He's answered a few questions about the adrenaline bar here. Now if you've seen the latest BTS video, they showed you the new feature, which is the adrenaline bar, and he's talking about it here. Now he says that the adrenaline bar goes up based on what abilities you use, not the damage dealt. So basically this is saying that lower players' bars will still be able to fill at the same rate as max players, and however the lower level players haven't unlocked as many abilities, so that might slow them down a little bit. But basically it's based on what ability, how many abilities you use. Now he's saying also that you can't spam the same basic ability over and over. He says the shortest cooldown on an ability is 10 seconds. So you can't constantly use obviously abilities and ability. You can't just spam click and hit absolutely shit tons of damage. But also he says the idea is to chain together a string of basic and threshold abilities to get to a full adrenaline bar in say 20 to 30 seconds or so. So he's given a rough idea of what's a good time to get to a full adrenaline bar. Because you got your ultimates. Now the ultimates drain your full adrenaline bar and it's got to be full. So, and the ultimates do the massive damage. And basically he's saying that you should be able to do this in about 20 to 30 seconds. So if you can do that, you're doing a good job, and that's what you're aiming to do your most damage. He mentions in PvP that people have defensive ultimates too, so getting an easy kill on someone won't be that easy. He says that the idea is that you use one ability, it goes on cooldown, then you use your next one, then that goes on cooldown too, and so on. You can't just mash the keyboard and fire off several abilities at once though, as every time you use an ability, the global cooldown is applied. So obviously every ability's got a cooldown of about 10 seconds plus, being the shortest. But there's also a global cooldown so that you can't use two abilities in quick succession. And he says that it's 1.2 seconds between abilities. and that is just 2 server cycles or 2 game ticks, as it's more commonly known really. Each tick's 0.6 seconds. That's a pointless question. Energy transfer. Now I know that's Fred just saying. He's just saying that the spell energy transfer is being removed due to it being overpowered in the new system. Ultimate abilities. Gmod please. If it's saying Gmod please, it's probably silly. He says there's no single target. No. He says the single target ultimates too. Because all the ultimates that we've seen so far are multi-combat and hitting multiple players, but there is single combat ones he's mentioned. The Inspiration Aura and Leech Special now affect the Adrenaline Bar instead. So if you're wondering what special recover things would do, but they recover the Adrenaline Bar instead. So instead of having to use a load of abilities to get it up, you use this. And he also says that they still give 25%, like the special recover. It doesn't give. Does it give 25%? Yes, it does. And he says that, but they have a longer cooldown. But I'll say 25% is pretty crap, because if you can fill it in 20 to 30 seconds, the full bar, that's 100%. At the minute, how long does it take to fill a special bar? I'm not sure. But it's definitely a lot longer than that. Anyway, the next one is stunning limits or something. Weird Fred names. Basically, once you've been stunned, you get a period of stun immunity to stop you being stunned right away. So if you get stunned, you got probably say 5 seconds that you can run, and you're immune to stun no matter how many stuns are cast on you. So basically, what it means is that you can't just be perm stunned in the same spot while another guy just owns you. You will have chances to move, even if you get stunned quite a lot. And also, the stuns all share a joint cooldown ability, so that you can't use multiple different stun attacks in quick succession. There's many cooldowns, and I imagine this is going to get quite complicated. Anyway, this is the last post that I want to mention, and basically he's on about cheaper spells again, and now he's on about ancients. And he's given us some useful information now, is that Ice Barrage now only costs 2 blood runes and 5 water runes, and no death runes. So at the minute obviously uses bloods and deaths, and it's quite costly to cast. It's certainly a very expensive spell to use. And then he mentions that Rush and Burst uses deaths, barrage. Rush and Bursts use deaths, barrage and blitz use bloods. So I think, is blitz multi-combat? No, I don't think it is. It's bursts and barrage that are multi-combat. So the lower multi-combat spell, the burst, only uses death runes. I think bursting rock lobsters for charms is going to be substantially cheaper after this, and will be a much more useful way to get charms, but I imagine they'll be packed. Anyway, that's all I want to mention in this video, and I hope you found some of this information useful. If you do like me to do these videos, I will keep them up, and I like to bring you a lot of information, because I know not many people really go on the forums, and I do like look at what GMods are posting, just to see any information they are releasing. So yeah, I will keep these videos up if you want me to do them, and also I might be doing a livecom Sunday, basically on a discussion on the combat rulebook and how it's going to affect RuneScape. A lot of people are really worried about it ruining the game, but I'll save that discussion for a livecom Sunday, but look forward to that. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video.